Hi, my name is Joyce. I'm with the USI Technical Department. Today we're going to talk about our ARL 2700 Pro heated roller machine. If we come over to the left side and we look at our features, we have our key lock. When the key is in the locked position, your rollers will not move, but you can heat it. And you can take the key out if you don't want anyone to use it. When you put the key in the unlocked position, that's what makes your rollers go. So you have your heat power switch, and now you have your speed control knob. Also on the Pro, you have a switch for cooling fans. When you're running 5mm film, you want to use the cooling fans. When you're running 3mm, 1.5, or 1.3mm film, you can shut the fans off. If we come over to this side of the machine, you have your digital display. So when you turn on your heat switch, you have your digital display where you can set your temperature. Say you want to set it at 250. Over here you have your actual temperature. That is for actual temperature. When you first press that in, it's going to read 140 degrees because it hasn't even reached 140. You also have Celsius and Fahrenheit. We're used to working in Fahrenheit, so you would leave it in Fahrenheit. Your temperature is set based on the film that you're using. Different films require different temperatures. Also on this side, you have a switch. When the switch is pushed to the left, that makes both rollers heat. When it's switched to the right, that shuts off the bottom roller. The reason for shutting off the bottom roller is to do our foam board mounting, which we'll do after we encapsulate. We're going to shut our heat off. We also on this side have our tension knobs. We have the top tension knob for the top roll of film. We have the bottom tension knob for the bottom roll of film. You adjust the tension to get the wrinkles out. One thing extra with the Pro is a handle. When the handle is in the closed position down, that means your rollers are tight. That's for doing encapsulating. When you turn the handle up, you should hear it click. And you should actually feel the rollers go up and down. That's for doing the board mounting. Sometimes people pull on this handle from the side, and when they do, they just turn it and it's not doing anything. You have to make sure you're standing in front of the machine, turn it to close or turn it to open. In front of the machine, we have our feed tray. We're going to take this off to thread our laminator. The nice thing about the Pro also is you have a threading diagram on the side frame. So your top roll of film, you would line up red to red. The bottom roll of film, you line up blue to blue. We do color code most of our rolls. Some film may not be color coded, like our value wrap. If your film is not color coded, you want to make sure when you thread it, you're always putting the shiny side of the film against your heaters, and the dull side is facing you, since the dull side is your adhesive. Typically when you put a bar into the roll, you should hit the gripper teeth. So what you want to do is you want to turn it in the opposite direction of the gripper teeth. Once you get it in, you could turn it back the other way and you'll actually feel the teeth grip the core of the film. Now normally you would line up your rolls. So I kind of pull it down and I could pull my film over to the left or to the right to kind of even it up. I like to usually take my bottom roll. I go around the bottom idler bar. I pull the film towards me and I just kind of let it rest on the roll. I take my top film I go behind my top idler bar. And you want to bring the film down so it's laying over both heaters. And you want to bring the film up so it's laying over both heaters. Then we're going to take our threading board. We're going to push it in between the rubber rollers. We're going to make sure our key is in the unlock position. You don't need the heat on to do this, so you just hit the forward switch. I usually come around to the side. I make sure that my threading board is exiting the back of my two rubber rollers. You don't want it to go over, you don't want it to go under, you want it to go right through. Once our threading board exits, we're going to come around to the front of the machine and we're going to turn on our temperature for the film that you're using. Some films require different temperatures. So this film is our OptiClear. It runs between 230 and 250 degrees. So we're going to set it at 250 and we're going to wait until a good 20 minutes or so to make sure that our machine heats up. One thing to remember is when your machine is heating, this red light will come on. And like I said before, it's going to flash 140 at the beginning because it hasn't even reached 140. Your machine doesn't want to overshoot the temperature, so your red light might shut off 2 or 3 times before it even reaches the 250. So you want to make sure when you're ready to laminate that you're pressing in the ACT and you're at that 250 degrees and your light should be off. Once we get this fully heated, we'll come back and we'll run a poster. Okay, now that our ARL Pro is fully heated, before I even put the tray back on, I like to run it slowly and adjust my tension if I need to get any wrinkles out. I adjust it for the top roller or the bottom. So we're looking pretty clear, so we look good. If we had wrinkles, we would apply a little tension to the top by turning it away from you as well as the bottom. So now we're going to put our tray back on. It just slides over the pins and it connects to the 2 pins by your rollers and it just clips down. We're going to take our little zippy cutter because we have some film hanging out the back. And we'll just remove this. We're going to take a poster. Just going to take a thinner poster. One thing to notice too is if you're doing something this size, you can buy rolls that are narrower. You just have to line them up top to bottom. So you can do any width up to 27 inch. So we're going to hit our forward switch. We always want to make sure our film's coming out the back and nothing's wrapping. I'm going to slowly feed my print in so it goes in between my rollers. And depending on the thickness of the print, depending on what film you're using, the thinner the film, the slower you want to go. The thicker the film, you can go a little bit quicker. It depends on what you're running. So thinner film, you can go quicker. Thicker film, you go a little bit slower. Like I said, it depends on what you're running. Right now we're using a 3mm film, so I haven't turned on my fans. Typically you turn on the fans when you're doing the 5mm film. If your temperature does drop at all, your temperature display will make a click noise and the temperature will start heating again. So we could just cut this away for now. Run a little bit quicker. So with roll machines, you could feed pieces side by side, or like I said, you could buy thinner film, wider or less wide, up to 27 inches. If we use the cooling fans, we can just turn them on, and what the cooling fans do is cool the film in between. That's typically for 5mm film. And we have gloss film, satin, matte, different mil thicknesses. This machine could do up to 5mm film. If you needed to run a 10mm film, you could, but it has to be a 2:8 ratio, which is like our OptiClear. 2 mils being the polyester, the 8 being the adhesive. So now we're just going to cut this away from our machine. And what we're going to do next is we're going to do a foam board mounting. So what I'm going to do is I will shut off the bottom heater, but I'm going to let the machine cool down some. So I'm just going to shut off the heat. I want to remove my film because we don't need it for doing the board mounting. It's still hot right now, so you just have to be careful if you need to change it. What I like to do is go in reverse, because if your machine is still hot, this is adhesive. If you go forward, you're going to get adhesive on your rollers. So what I like to do is back it out. I don't need my fans on. You kind of speed it up. So once we get this out, we'll set our machine actually for 300 degrees for the board mounting. We're going to shut off our bottom roller, and then we're going to get ready to do our mounting and laminating with our foam board. Once you take your film off your supply manuals, to do the board mounting, you want to set your temperature to single heat, which is heat top, off on the bottom. We're going to put our tray on. And when you're doing board mounting, you have to open up your rollers. So you open it this way and you just click it. I'm going to take my 25 by 37 board. You could use smaller boards also, 16 by 20, 11 by 14, and 8 by 10. We're just going to get it started in between our rollers. We're going to hit our forward switch and we're just going to push it in a little bit. You do have to run this slow. The reason why is you have to have the heat get through the laminate, then the heat has to go through the print and has to go through to the board where you have your heat activated adhesive. As soon as it exits the second set of rollers, you may want to give it a little tug. I like to kind of pinch my laminate close to me to keep it flat, especially if you're running the matte film or the satin luster. The film tends to want to maybe lift up on you, so if you just kind of hold it close to you. Another thing that you can run on this is we have boards with just the adhesive. It's the glue on the board with no laminate. So if you wanted to just mount a print to the board, you would put your print on the board and you would cover it with what we call a cover sheet. And that cover sheet comes with your heat activated boards. And all you really do is lay the cover sheet on top, because you would have adhesive exposed and you don't want to get the adhesive all over the board. So again, we're running it at 300 degrees. We're making sure our switch is turned so that the bottom roller is off. And sometimes when people are doing regular encapsulating like we did earlier, sometimes they forget to switch the switch back over to dual. So whenever you find you have no heat on the bottom roller, most likely you have the switch turned to the off position. So once you're getting it through, you don't really have to hold it as much. Sometimes I do like to come around the back side and maybe just kind of lift it a little bit so that it's coming out nice and flat. And then once you've ran this through, you could either leave a small edge seal around your board, or you can trim flush up to the print and your print will stay stuck to the board. This is good if you have signs to do, or if you have small pieces that you want to do and put an easel on the back and have it standing up. So again, you want to run it fairly slow. You may hear the temperature board click from time to time because it wants to maintain that 300 degrees. So your front rollers are basically heating it. Your back rollers are just adding that little bit of pressure. You don't need the cooling fans on. And once it exits, you pretty much have your mounted piece. And that's what your ARL 2700 Pro can do.